Have you ever just felt completely drained by your commitments? Like you're giving absolutely everything you have to others, but somehow leaving zero in the tank for yourself? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're breaking down the whole philosophy of becoming expensive, meaning how to reclaim your finite time, build true intrinsic value, and set some unapologetic boundaries so you can finally stop burning out for people who just don't appreciate it.
So, let me ask you something right out of the gate. Have you confused being valuable with being constantly available? It's a fascinating and honestly incredibly common trap. Look, the problem isn't that you care too much or that you want to be helpful. The real issue is that you've sort of intertwined your self-worth with your accessibility. Think about it. When people know they can reach you whenever they want, day or night, your time stops feeling like a meaningful gift. Instead, it just starts feeling like a guaranteed right.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to cover 1. The cost of availability, 2. The trap of overgiving, 3. Building value in private, 4. Controlling access to you, and 5. Self-respect over attention. Let's jump right in this section 1, the cost of availability, and what happens when your time becomes guaranteed.
Because here's the reality. Every unnecessary interruption costs you far more than just a few fleeting minutes on the clock. Before you give away your time so freely, you have to realize what you're actually handing over. You're spending your finite mental energy. You're breaking your sharpest focus. And most importantly, you're sacrificing the exact opportunities you could have used to shape your own future. Literally every single yes you give to someone else's urgent crisis is an automatic no to your own rest, your own goals, and your own peace of mind.
That's why we have to draw a hard line here between just being needed and actually being respected. You do not have to answer every message the exact second it arrives, right? And you certainly don't have to abandon your own priorities just to solve someone else's problem. Think about it for a second. If you stopped being the ultimate problem solver tomorrow, would those people still stick around? If your relationships depend entirely on you always being useful, you aren't building a genuine connection. You're just building a dependence on your services. True connection is about being respected for who you are, not just utilized for what you can do.
Which leads us perfectly into section 2, the trap of overgiving and the fear of rejection. This is where things get a bit uncomfortable, but stay with me. We all keep an invisible emotional scorecard. Look closely at this dynamic. On the surface, sure, we freely give our time, our favors, our exhausting energy. But secretly, deep down, we expect approval, loyalty, and attention in return. When your generosity is driven by this hidden fear of rejection, it actually ceases to be a genuine gift. It becomes a covert transaction, basically a desperate attempt to purchase affection. And when the other person doesn't pay you back with the loyalty you expected, that unspoken contract instantly turns into deep, toxic resentment.
There's a quote from the source material that just completely nails this. Give freely, but never give yourself away just to be accepted. You know, you can say no without being cruel. Declining a request doesn't make you a bad friend or a bad partner or a bad employee. It just makes you a person with healthy boundaries. True generosity absolutely has to include yourself. Your need for rest and quiet matters just as much as someone else's need for a favor. If giving to others means erasing yourself, the price is simply way too high.
Let's pivot now to section 3, building value in private, specifically competence and character. Real substance, that is forged exactly when nobody is watching. Look, I know we live in a culture that absolutely demands immediate recognition, but lasting value follows a very specific progression. First, you've got to develop your competence in complete silence. Second, face and improve those weaknesses you'd rather hide and do it far away from public judgment. As you commit to this, step 3 just happens naturally. Your results begin to accumulate. And finally, those quiet, undeniable results build an unshakable credibility. You don't have to convince people you're reliable when your consistent history is already doing all the heavy lifting for you.
There is just a massive difference between constantly announcing your abilities and letting your private results serve as undeniable evidence. One is a loud, defensive statement. The other is quiet, absolute proof. Just think about someone who loudly insists they're disciplined versus someone who simply keeps their commitments when absolutely nobody is looking. When you are genuinely capable, you don't need a megaphone to explain why people should respect you. Your actions just make the argument for you.
Now we move into an entirely new operational model for your life with section 4, controlling access to you and becoming intentional.
It is incredibly important here to understand the fundamental difference between playing games and actually having standards. Playing hard to get, that's manipulative, it's reactive, and honestly, it usually stems from insecurity. True selectiveness, on the other hand, is an expression of your deliberate internal standards. You don't need to manufacture fake mystery or create artificial competition for your attention. Becoming selective simply means you fundamentally understand that access to your time, your space, and your energy is a privilege.
So, instead of making these dramatic announcements about who is being cut out of your life, just watch their actions carefully. Ask yourself these specific questions. Do they genuinely respect your time? Do they treat your personal information responsibly? Do they actually appreciate your effort? And this is a big one. Do they respect your boundaries when you say no? Let trust be earned through consistent behavior. Once you start filtering relationships through these questions, you stop trying to be valuable to everyone, and you finally start protecting what is valuable within you.
Which brings us to our final point. Section 5. Self-respect over attention. The ultimate choice.
We all know that sudden attention feels incredibly powerful, right? It's validating, but it's also entirely fleeting. A quick compliment, a flurry of texts, a burst of social media likes, that's just attention. It evaporates as quickly as it arrives. But respect? Respect is built through undeniable, repeated evidence over time. If your self-worth depends entirely on the temporary hit of someone else's attention, your confidence is always going to be unstable. True self-respect is what remains standing, even when the room goes completely quiet.
I would rather lose this connection than lose my standards. This is the absolute ultimate expression of self-respect. It's having the willingness to walk away from unhealthy, draining situations quietly and confidently. It means you stop tolerating disrespect just because you're afraid of being alone. Listen, if someone leaves your life because you finally enforced a reasonable boundary, you didn't suffer a loss. You experienced a revelation that the connection only existed because you were willing to accept far less than you deserved. When you stop making someone else's choices the foundation of your identity, you build a value that absolutely no one can diminish. You cannot be the right person for everyone, and honestly, you don't need to be. So stop trading your self-respect for cheap, temporary attention. Become impossible to cheapen. The question I want to leave you with today is this. Are you ready to stop proving your worth to others and start becoming someone you actually respect?